The monetary policy stance has remained a tight monetary policy stance to support stability in the economy. We currently in an environment of improving stability post September 2024, and we always want to continue supporting that environment. But the best way to drive an economy is to balance growth and stability. Yes, stability is bedding down, but we also want to drive growth. The stability that we are achieving in the economy is being driven by tight monetary policy stance. So the tight monetary policy stance will also need some support of especially the productive sector to drive growth. So we basically balancing growth and stability. Unsurprisingly, the central bank came up with a targeted finance facility. Targeted in the sense that the facility is not expected to go towards consumptive purposes, because consumptive purposes would drive volatilities, instability in the economy. But if it goes towards productive purposes, it means we're actually investing in future production and productivity as well as growth in the economy. So that's basically the rationale, the motive for coming up with a targeted finance facility. Is acknowledging the fact that there is need to continue with a tight monetary policy stance. But whilst there is need to continue with a tight monetary policy stance, there is also need to support growth through a targeted finance facility which targets the productive sectors of the economy, but which facility is going to be structured around respective banks. And in that case, it means it's not a quasi-fiscal activity. It is a facility which is going to be rolled out or issued through the banks themselves and through the resources of the banks themselves. So it is going to drive stability, it is going to drive growth going forward into the economy, which is what we want. We want to get to a point of growth with stability. That is quality growth. Growth which is not supported by stability isn't quality growth, isn't the growth we desire. We desire a growth which is stability driven, which is supported by stability.
So we are now nearing the festive season, and in the past years we've seen that the local currency usually depreciates and prices go up during that time. What should we be expecting this year with the new currency, RBZ?
We see a situation of continued stability despite the traditional volatilities that normally kicks in the last quarter of the year on account of this year tight monetary policy stance. That's why the central bank needs to maintain that tight monetary policy stance, and we see that is supporting stability. But importantly, the structured currency, as it continues to deliver in terms of the accessibility of foreign currency in the interbank market, as well as the convertibility of ZiG on the interbank market, is expected to also support stability going into this last quarter of the year. It is quite encouraging, it is quite comforting that the reserves that support the structured currency have continued to increase and the reserves are now covering the total ZiG money supply in the economy. I think the last statistic we had is the reserves are now around 540 million US dollars, which covers not only the reserve ZiG money supply, but total ZiG money supply. Our target was to cover the reserve ZiG money supply, but we've gone beyond that to covering the total ZiG money supply. But also, we don't expect, on account of the measures that we have put in place or the measures that we have maintained, the ZiG money supply growth or reserve money supply growth to increase beyond a certain level. So we are continuing with the tight monetary policy stance to support stability. And that's why even this facility, the targeted finance facility, has been necessary, because if you continue tightening, it cannot then happen without consequences. There may be consequences, and these are the consequences that we are trying to proactively respond to the possible consequences. That is the possibility of stifling growth. We are countering that through that facility.
Maybe my last question is, has authorities created a demand for ZiG? Because when bonuses were injected in the market, we expected the rate to shoot up, but it seems relatively stable. I'm not commenting that. And also, has there been any arrests or the intensified surveillance on parallel market changes?
So the demand for ZiG is going to be supported by the act, the new act for payment of statutory QPDs in the proportion of 50-50 in ZiG and in US dollars. On the background of, or against the background of tight ZiG liquidity in the market currently. And the market is now having to pay 50% of the QPDs in ZiG, which is the support of the currency by the government. The law is now in place, and we expect the QPDs for this December to also drive demand for the ZiG. Going forward, government has also indicated that they will also continue increasing other payments, including duties and taxes in ZiG. But we see that as driving the demand for the ZiG.
The taxes that were introduced
the situation we are in currently is in an enviable situation, in that our revenues from the formal sectors of the economy are dwindling. Look at the corporate tax at 9.4%, is now a significant reduction from around 20% previously. And as such, to continue supporting the programs, government programs and projects, including those that government had already started, but also what government wants to embark on, and also the social services that government has been providing and would want to provide, there is need to support the revenue generation in the country. But we're talking about this support against a background of increased informalization. And this increased informalization would mean that if we are to maintain the revenues, or increase the revenues, the already paying constituents would have to bear more tax burden. So, which is a situation we don't want. Hence, the need to also extend to those that are not paying revenue, those that are not bearing the burden of taxation, and including those in the informal sector, through a tax system or taxes that targets the widely consumed products and services, widely consumed across all sectors of the economy. So to that extent, we view that as a revenue that helps to extend into the currently non-tax paying constituencies in the economy. So as we get to a certain point, or as the revenue inflows increase to support the government programs and projects, we hope that at some point this increase would then cause the fiscal authorities to alleviate the tax burden on the formalized and on those that are carrying the heavy burden of taxation in the country. That is where we hope to go. But currently, you want to agree with me that the first step is to get everyone paid so the burden of tax is shared.